The second and final day of the Eurasian Economic Forum in Belarus is underway with a focus on food sovereignty among the organization's member countries. In the U.S., the Supreme Court ruled to limit federal judges' power to block presidential orders. And in Panama, members of the United People's Alliance will continue protesting to demand an end to the criminalization of demonstration against the Social Security law. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news as with us. The second and final day of the Eurasian Economic Forum in Belarus is underway with a focus on food sovereignty among the organization's member countries. During the day, the member countries of the Eurasian Economic Union discuss how food sovereignty is the foundation of true independence. They also discuss the development of the food industry as well as the medical and social aspects of nutrition and food quality improvement. Meanwhile, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko announced that an informal summit of the Eurasian Economic Community will be held and criticized attacks on Iranian nuclear installations.
The recent strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities under IAEA control are a most dangerous violation of international law, including the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and the 1949 Geneva Conventions. I won't even mention the feelings that such actions evoke in Belarus, the country that suffered the most from the Chernobyl nuclear accident.
In a video message to the Eurasian Summit, Iranian President Mansour Pezeshkian described U.S. and Israeli attacks as a blatant violation of international law.
I deeply regret that given the current development, I do not have the opportunity to participate in this important summit. Your Excellencies, as you know, the Zionist regime, starting from June 13th, has carried out ruthless, illegal armed attacks and terrorist actions against the Islamic Republic of Iran. This aggression occurred amidst indirect negotiations between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States regarding Iran's peaceful nuclear program. Even Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities were targeted. The military provocations by the United States and the Zionist regime against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, which were under the full supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency, represent a blatant violation of all international regulations and an irreparable blow to the credibility of the non-proliferation regime by a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council.
Moving on, during a news conference held in the sidelines of the Eurasian Summit in Minsk, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated Moscow's readiness to hold the third round of peace talks with Ukraine.
We agreed that we would continue further contacts with Ukraine after the completion of the exchanges and after the humanitarian action that we proposed, namely, the transfer of the bodies of the fallen servicemen. We have already returned over 6,000 bodies and are ready to return almost 3,000 more. But it is up to the Ukrainian side to accept the bodies of its fallen soldiers. We are ready to hold such a meeting in Istanbul. As for when exactly, the heads of the negotiating teams on both sides, and they, by the way, are regularly in touch, call each other all the time, and in my opinion this is not bad already, are now discussing the time for another meeting. Well, what will be the subject? The subject, in my opinion, should be the discussion of memoranda of both sides.
And we continue changing topics. So on Friday, Israeli occupation targets areas north of the Litani River, implementing a Farabel tactic intended to cause widespread destruction across southern Lebanon. Authorities registered one woman killed and other 20 civilians injured. This raid hit the Ali al-Tare heights with some explosions occurring dangerously close to civilian homes in the town's outskirts. Firefighting crew battled wildfires that broke out in nearby forest areas as a result of the bombardment. The violation marks another of dozens since the ceasefire took effect on November 27, 2024, and continued Israeli incursions into Lebanese border villages, daily drone attacks, and violated air raids threatening Lebanese infrastructure. In Yemen, citizens rallied to show their support for Palestine and to condemn Israeli aggressions in the region. Protesters mobilized under the slogan, "We will continue to support Gaza and holy sites no matter the challenges." The mobilization also expressed gratitude for the success of the recent attacks by the Yemeni army forces and the continuation of the naval and air blockade against Israel. The Yemeni people reaffirmed their full commitment to the leader of the revolution, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, to take the appropriate decisions in support of the Palestinian cause. And Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro held a phone conversation on Friday with the Emir of the State of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. On an official statement, the government unveiled details of the call in which the South American head of state expressed his solidarity with the complex situation that Western Asia has been experiencing in recent weeks, and specifically the state of Qatar, and his hopes that the recent ceasefire announced between Iran and the state of Israel is not just a pause, but the beginning of a true structural peace agreement for the entire region. For his part, the Emir of Qatar said he had received Venezuela's proposal to convene a summit for peace and against war and highlight the nation's diplomatic efforts in favor of regional stability. Both leaders reaffirmed the bonds of friendship and closeness between their peoples and governments, confirming their willingness to continue deepening bilateral cooperation in all areas, and agreed to maintain constant communication and to meet again to continue advancing on joint projects. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see this in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. On Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled to limit federal judges' power to block presidential orders. The vote was decided 6-3 by a 9-member bench during an emergency appeal related to the birthright citizens case, where the conservative majority found that universal injunctions likely exceed the credible authority that Congress has given to federal courts. The decision came in response to the injunctions from federal courts in Washington, Maryland, and Massachusetts, which sought to block President Donald Trump's ability to curtail the right to birthright citizenship. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor expressed their dissent with the ruling, which has also been condemned by the American Civil Liberties Union. The U.S. current trade deficit has increased by $138.2 billion in the first quarter of 2025, marking a record high in President Trump's trade war. The current account measured the flow of food services and investments into and out of the country, as well as its earning and spending abroad. As a percentage of gross domestic products, the deficit increased by 1.8 percentage points to 6%, which is the highest level since the peak record in 2006. Experts and analysts agree that this 44% increase is a result of campaigns rushing to import goods before new tariffs are imposed, which are expected to continue. On Friday, China clarified statements made by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding an alleged agreement with China on tariff. Beijing has clarified that it will review and approve applications for the export of controlled items in accordance with laws and regulations. According to the Geneva and London meetings, the United States will eliminate a series of restrictive measures against China in response. Ministry of Commerce spokesman He Jiadong particularly warned to clarify the statements about rare earth. He confirmed that a number of applications had been approved and noted that they will continue to strengthen the review and approval process for qualifying operation. On Friday, Indonesian President met with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to discuss expanding the country's bilateral cooperation. The Malaysian Prime Minister was welcomed at the Halim Perdana Kusuma Air Force Base in Jakarta by the campus Honor Guard and a delegation from Indonesia, including a Minister of Investments, of Foreign Affairs, and Governor of Jakarta. Ibrahim's official visit to Jakarta includes an important agenda, which includes a meeting with leaders from both countries. These meetings between Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur aims to maintain dialogues and strengthen the long-standing ties between the two countries. The Cambodian government has warned of rising tensions along the border with Thailand following months of clashes in the Monday region. Senate President Hun Sen ordered the deployment of security forces to the region and instructed them to remain on high alert in the event of an armed conflict with Thailand. During his first visit to the province, Hun Sen stated that Cambodia does not one word, but will stand firm against any hostile force that tries to violate its sovereignty. In the Central African Republic, the government declares a 3-day of national mourning to honor the 30 students killed in an accident at the Barthélemy Bongara High School in Bangkok. In this regard, President Faustin Archange also expressed his deepest condolences to the victims' families. The incident occurred a few meters from the National Assembly when some 5,000 students crowded on attempting to find the exit door of the school after the explosion of a generator. Ahead of next year's general election in Sweden, the far-right Sweden Democrats Party issued a public apology for its Nazi past. The apology came following a study to determine what people thought about the party's positions of Nazism. Some of its current members described the past as despicable and reprehensible and apologized to the Swedish people. Party leader Jamie Agensson repeatedly tried to distance the party from its extremist roots and rebrand its public image, even though it still supports xenophobic and discriminatory ideas. Let's take a last break, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. We'll find a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. On Friday in Panama, members of the United People's Alliance will continue protesting to demand an end to the criminalization of demonstrations against the Social Security law. Representatives of social and political unions indicate that demonstrators are expected to march towards the National Assembly in Tegucigalpa. Panamanians are demanding an end to human rights violations and excessive abuse by state security forces, particularly in Bocas del Toro province. The Latin American Episcopal Council and regional human rights organizations are calling for solidarity with the people in the country's economic, social, and political crisis. The Mexican government reports that its banking systems remain solid and is operating normally, indicating that the resources of the account holders of the three intervened institutions are safe. The Secretary of Finance and Public Credit, Edgar Amador, assured that Mexican banking systems remain solid and uninterrupted after the interventions made by the National Banking and Security Commission to two banks and at brokerage house. Also, Amadors explained that after the action of the U.S. Treasury Department, the Ministry of Finance and Public Credit maintained a permanent monitoring and consultation with the Bank of Mexico to evaluate market conditions. In Haiti, a major political and institutional crisis, former Prime Minister Claude Joseph was questioned for his alleged involvement in the assassination of former President Jovenel Moïse. The hearing was held at the Court of Appeal in Port-au-Prince as part of the investigation that has yet to be finally resolved. The summons was issued by the examining magistrate, Walter W. Voltaire, who has pointed to several public figures as part of a complex and delicate plot. On this Friday, the Venezuelan government strongly rejected recent reports issued by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, condemning them as irresponsible, base, and deeply politicized. Through an official statement, the Bolivarian government accused as hypocritical that someone who it mentioned has remained completely silent in the face of the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people, who has not uttered a word about the massacres carried out in Lebanon and Syria, now seeks to give moral lessons to the Venezuelan people. In addition, Caracas warns Mr. Turk has chosen to become an operative for the interests of U.S. imperial power, even traveling to Washington to receive instructions aimed at protecting and legitimizing Venezuelan tourism groups operating from abroad with total impunity, adding that from there, he orchestrated campaigns to undermine Venezuela's democratic institutions without any success. Furthermore, these statements denounce his complicit silence in the face of the kidnapping of 252 Venezuelan citizens remain detained in subhuman conditions in concentration camps in El Salvador without due to process or contact with their families, and prompts questions about his concern for human rights. Finally, the communique stressed that Mr. Volker Turk does not defend human rights. He exploits them politically, adding that his tenor seeks to undermine the credibility and effectiveness of the Office of the High Commissioner in collusion with centers of powers that promote wars, economic blockades, and regime change, and closed by reaffirming Venezuela's commitment to true human rights, peace, social justice, and respect for people. And moving on, the government of Venezuela is working on the restoration of the main roads in the state of Mérida after the heavy rainfalls of the last few days. In the Merideño moorland, some roads were devastated by the flooding of the Chama River, which destroyed nearly 16 bridges and thousands of houses. The Venezuelan authorities are working on the opening of an alternative road to allow the transit of residents, as well as the transfer of corpses to other parts of the country. On the other hand, the authorities confirm the establishment of more than 70% of public services, such as water, electricity, and internet. In Colombia, the death toll following a landslide in Antioquia rose to 16. The disaster struck between Medellin and Bello on Tuesday due to the heavy rains that caused a nearby creek to overflow. Authorities add that at least 15 people remain missing and that search and rescue efforts continue. And the government of South Africa reports that the death toll from floodings in the east of the country has risen to 105. The provincial Minister of Cooperation, Governance and Traditional Affairs of the Eastern Cape informed that in addition, the rains caused the forced displacement of more than 4,700 people. The official also informed that due to the material damage, some $283.3 million will be needed to recover the reconstruction of the affected areas. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English and from the south of Marrero, thank you for watching.